Welcome to the Track to AI podcast, your guide to the most impactful AI and tech solutions powered by Chetu. I'm your host, Leonard Goffe, and I love discovering how the right technology can move businesses forward. I speak with experts about everyday tech problems, and we share solutions that actually work. From AI integration to practical use cases, you'll get the clarity you need to make smarter decisions for your company. If you're ready to stay ahead of the tech trends, yes, you've come to the right place. It is time to get on track. Hey everyone, welcome to episode 3 of the Track to AI podcast. I'm your host, Leonard Goffe, and if you haven't listened to our first 2 episodes about AI and digital transformation, I highly recommend you do. You know you want to. Now today, we're discussing AI-ready data. And in this podcast, we talk about how AI is transforming just about everything in the business world. But is your organization ready for AI? Gotta tell you, most aren't. Luckily, our guest today knows all about preparing companies to adopt AI. Rick Heicksen is a solutions expert at Chetu. He specializes in building and scaling data management practices powered by modern platforms, AI, and agentic AI technologies that align with business goals. We'll hear from him in just a minute. Now, as I've said before in previous episodes, AI isn't magic. It's a process that needs to be clear, accurate, and defined. Data needs to be defined. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean that companies need more data. It does mean that the data that your company has needs to be trusted, contextual, secure, and repeatable. And we know that the majority of AI projects, both big and small, fail for 2 main reasons, and we don't want that to happen. The first is, of course, data, and the second is the fear of AI. So let's get into the data about data. So Rick, thank you so much for being on the show today. We're really happy to have you here.
Thanks, Leonard. Hi, everyone. Pleasure to be here.
And Rick, we've got a couple of questions for you so companies can accurately get on AI and make it work. Now, to an industry leader or company president, how do you explain the idea of what is AI-ready data, especially if they have large amounts of existing data?
Sure, I can cover that. So it's what it is and what it's not, right? What it is, it's AI ready data is a decision grade data, data that's trusted enough to act on. It's understood with clear meaning and definitions. It's controlled, so it's secure and compliant, and it's repeatable. So through reliable pipelines, no off work, right? No one offs. AI ready data isn't more data; it's just decision grade data. As for what it's not, and you may all recognize these, but it's not, hey, we moved to the cloud, so we're ready. Or we have dashboards, so we're good to go. Or we hired an AI talent, so we're ready. Or we've built lake or warehouses, so we're ready for AI. So AI doesn't fix broken inputs, it scales them.
That's right. And a lot of people misunderstood what a transition to AI or becoming an AI first company really means. And it is data that really backs it up, not, data that's not biased, data that's clean, and the one truth data that in every single department, you're going to have one single answer for whatever data that might be. And we have a really good example here. From the Mayo Clinic, they worked with Google on using clinical data, so this has to be really clean and secure data. They used it for advanced analytics with practices like de-identification, controlled access, and clear rules for secondary use. And that approach emphasizes privacy and compliance, because we both know there's a lot of compliance with health data. It included restrictions on how data could be used so that AI efforts could scale without compromising patient protections. And that's a big thing about data and transferring to AI. It has to scale within your organization. Now, from this example, it's clear that data governance can really propel a company's AI implementation process. But according to our friends at Gartner, organizations will abandon 60% of AI projects that aren't supported by AI-ready data. And I think that number is actually growing. Now, Rick, how many companies think, and I emphasize the word think, they are preparing for data and AI correctly by moving to the cloud, as you said before, getting dashboards, and even hiring data scientists or rocket scientists? What's the biggest misconception that companies have about AI readiness?
Yeah, thanks for that one, Leonard. And you nailed it, right? It is. It's moving to cloud, getting dashboards, hiring staff, scientists. So cloud equals AI ready. That's a big misconception, right? So cloud is infrastructure. If the data is inconsistent, poorly governed, or hard to access, AI scales the chaos faster. Dashboards, they mean we're data mature. No, business intelligence can report on what happened, but AI depends on reliable, well-modeled, well-labeled data that's reusable beyond a simple report. And then, of course, hiring data scientists will fix it. Data science can't compensate for missing foundations, quality, lineage, security, permissions, definitions, scalable pipelines. So there's definitely some misconceptions there.
And that's true because even the best data scientist isn't going to know what's going on inside your organization. And they're not going to know how to make sure data isn't biased intentionally or unintentionally, which is often the case. And for cloud, there's a lot of companies on the cloud, and there's been cloud failures here and there. So you don't necessarily need to be on the cloud. You could be hybrid or even internal and still have AI ready data, which will make your company get to the next level. Why do you think so many AI initiatives stall or even fail after pilots or demos?
Sure. I mean, number one, the pilot was curated. It's not repeatable. So manually stitching and clean sample data makes demos look great, but they break under real production conditions. Data trust collapses at scale. So inconsistent definitions, quality issues, missing lineage create unreliable outputs. So leaders stop believing in the results. Another one is there's no clear operational owner. If it's unclear who runs the day to day, whether it's data, IT, product, compliance, it stalls in handoff limbo. So it gets stuck. It doesn't integrate into real workflows and KPIs. So if AI isn't embedded into decisions, systems, and measurable outcomes, it becomes a side project and it loses sponsorship. So most AI failures aren't really model problems; they're data reliability and operationalization problems.
And do you find it's better that companies go for a smaller AI project to start to get a proof of concept to make sure it works and then expand? Or should they go for the larger project that'll go across the board?
I think what's important is they choose a pilot, right? And I can speak a little bit more about that, maybe in a minute here when it's more relevant. But you start with a pilot, and then you scale from there. So get your pilot nailed down, get your foundation, get your permissions nailed down, and then move from there.
That's great. And then for the stakeholders and for a team of stakeholders, if there's a team, how do you prepare them for what's going to happen in that arena?
If I was asked the question, hey, what do I need to do in the next 90 days to prepare my data for AI? Where should I start? I would say weeks 1 and 2, or pick the wins, right? Choose 1 or 2 high impact use cases tied to a business KPI so that data work is focused, sponsor backed, and measurable. Week 2 to 4, define the truth. Look down common definitions and key data elements to eliminate dueling numbers, right? And ensure that your teams, your AI teams, or your AI learns from consistent, trusted signals. Weeks 4 to 8, stabilize your pipeline. Make ingestion, transformation, and refresh reliable. AI can outperform the reliability of data feeding it. Weeks 8 to 12, add control without slowing down. Implement lightweight governance across lineage quality checks so teams can move fast, safely, and repeatably. And then lastly, weeks, maybe 12 to 13, ship a real win. Deliver something in production, used by real users, because adoption and operation proof matter more than just another pilot.
That's true. And once you have a successful AI project, no matter how small it is, if it's making a difference, both stakeholders and users are going to pay attention to that, and they're going to see the differences. And one of my pet peeves out there is people thinking AI is going to replace their jobs. And I've talked about this in both of our previous episodes. And that's simply not true. It's going to enhance your jobs out there, and it's going to make you a better worker and the company a better company. So now that we understand AI and the process and how many weeks it could take, how do leaders know? How do they really know that their company is not AI ready?
When a company is not AI ready, and these are the hard questions to ask yourselves, right? There's no single version of truth. Teams can't agree on core KPIs, so decisions stall in data debates, right? Data might be hard to find or trust. Right? It's unclear where the right data lives, what it means, or whether it's accurate or current. And then, access is inconsistent. Data is either overly restricted, slow for approval, or overly open, right? So security and compliance risk comes into the factor. And then kind of to piggyback on your previous question, right? AI pilots can't scale. Demos work, but production fails due to governance gaps, integration issues, monitoring, or unclear ownership. So if you can't trust, find and govern your data reliably, AI will only magnify the inconsistency, not the intelligence.
It's true because there's a lot of companies out there that are trying to implement AI. They're trying to become AI first. And yet they have these data silos. So accounting owns one part, sales owns the other part, maybe shipping owns another data, and they all claim it for themselves. And they're not really operating in the company's interest by holding on to that data and not sharing it as much as they can. And we even have some examples where people, instead of using a CRM, have their data on their laptop or device. And that's really hurting companies out there.
Yeah, it's no single version of truth, right? I mean, bottom line.
And for our audience, single version of truth means that if you went to every single department in your company right now and you asked about a particular client, say Mr. Jones, if Mr. Jones has different records in more than one department, you do not have a single source of truth. And to get AI projects and data projects working correctly, you need that single source of truth, and you need that data to be shared across every department in your company.
100%, because you're going to get different outcomes. You're going to get different numbers, different stats, different KPIs from each department. So you need that single version of truth, that single source.
And when you're doing these projects, how do you coach leaders to say, hey, everybody has to share? And in addition, we have different types of data, not just inside the company, but emails, text, unstructured data is what the actual term is. So it's not structured as it would be in a CRM, but you can read this data. And then you have structured data. How do you get departments to get both of those sources of data together?
So I think that's where the data integration comes in. Even internally, you need to integrate all your different departments into one, again, single version of truth, single dashboard or single data output, right? You have to compile it into one and then make sense of it from there. But you have to have those relationships internally to know there's going to be different data sets.
And tell me about an example, if you can, about a company, just to say company one that didn't have its data ready, and company two that did have its data ready. What were the differences in management, in the idea and the mindset between those two groups of people?
Well, I mean, there's group A that might have, to my previous comments, they think they're data ready. They may think that because, different departments are feeding data that they're ready. They may have a cloud infrastructure that they think they're ready. So it all gets back to that company A that has those misconceptions about AI readiness without the data piece in it. So AI is not a switch you flip on and off. You must have that data in a unified form to train that AI, right? So if you don't have that, whereas a company B that has their ducks in a row, so to speak, they've utilized the data, they've cleansed the data, they've organized it, they have created a single source of truth for that data. I think the answer is pretty clear of which company would prevail, right?
Yeah, definitely, because there are so many companies that read about becoming AI first, and they're like, oh, we can do that too. When in reality, they're not emotionally ready.
They think it's AI first, but no, it's really data first, right? Get your data house in order, then everything else feeds from that.
So we understand that when companies want to become AI first companies, when they want to switch from old, outdated processes to an AI first mentality, it takes a little bit of time for some companies. Some companies take less time, some companies take more time. And some of the examples that we gave, we talked about the Mayo Clinic. There's also JP Morgan Chase, and they describe using a strong model governance for machine learning and AI, treating AI systems like other regulated models. And that requires well-governed, well-documented data. But it also, AI isn't an individual thing. And I think you'd agree with this, Rick. It's not an individual thing. It's a process that you use inside of a company. So my point here is that AI isn't magic. It's part of a process. And as you discuss this with companies, how do you tell them that AI isn't a separate entity? It's not magic, but it's part of a process that it's overhauling, even with a pilot project, it's overhauling things. It's not changing things in its entirety, if that makes sense.
Sure. So, I mean, as far as AI adoption goes, it's an individual thing. It's a company to company thing. You have to adopt the AI, right? And it's not just a flip of the switch. It's literally you are changing a mindset. You're changing a culture, and it's all data reliable. Again, if you need to get your data house in order, get your data cleaned, get it structured, get it organized, a safe place to put it, your governance and your regulatory, responsibilities in order. So it's a full effect on a company. It's not just a flip the switch. It's a mindset, and I keep going back to it. If your data house is in order, then it's much easier to train your AI around that data specific to your company. The AI is only as smart as the data it's trained on.
That's true. And it has to be for each industry and each company, but for each industry, you have different regulations that you have to pay attention to. Healthcare, for example, you have to follow HIPAA laws. Fintech, you have to follow very specific laws, and not just in one area, because different states have different laws, different countries have different laws, and we know that, especially for finance, you have to have privacy regulations if you're here in the U.S. But if you do business with anyone in Europe, you have to have another standard of privacy regulation. So it's a lot to tell customers who think they're going to flip on the switch, as you say, that suddenly AI is magic and it's going to work. No, you have to go down to your data. And I also wanted to mention data bias as well. And data bias is the idea that not everybody's going to understand what a certain thing means in data. So if you're in the industry of tech, you may understand data lakehouse, for example. But even in the same company, other people do not understand what a data lakehouse is. And basically, it's storage for data, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, I mean, I could expand that a little bit, right? A data lake it's a centralized place to store raw, semi-processed data, structured and unstructured at scale. So think of it as a reservoir. You can pour in data from many sources quickly. Then you clean, organize, and serve it for analytics, right? AI and applications. The value really comes when you add the plumbing, right? So I'd like to say. So that's cataloging, governance, quality controls, consistent definitions. Otherwise, it turns into a data swamp very quick.
Yeah, we don't want that. But with a data lake, you will have smooth sailing going ahead in your data projects.
That's the idea.
No doubt for that. Yeah, that's going to be good. And we want, as you, as a company, and as a data integrator, for lack of a better term, want people to understand this is not easy, but it is necessary. It's not instant, but it can happen relatively soon as well. Chetu's Track to AI framework helps businesses adopt AI easily. In just 8 steps, you can unify data silos, maximize your ROI, and increase employee buy-in. Our experts will create a custom plan designed for your AI. Click the link in the show notes to learn more. And we are back. We're going to go over the AI myth of the week. So, the myth, of course, is buying an AI tool means you're officially an AI first company. Hooray! That is not the case, is it? No, the reality is AI is a change program. It's with software in the middle. It's not a one off purchase. And you're going to have to change through time, adapt to new regulations, adapt to new data sources as they come in. How do you lead companies with that and tell them, hey, it's not just one and done, but we still have to go on next month, the month after, the year after? We need continual updates, almost like an app on your phone.
Yeah, so it's creating that foundation. It's getting the data cleansed. It's creating the foundation, creating the compliance, and then it's making it repeatable. I kind of mentioned that earlier on. It needs to be repeatable. If you're creating a pilot or you're utilizing, AI for a one-off situation, it's not going to build to scale. It's not going to be able to be repeatable across the organization. So you're going to get stuck. You're going to be back to square one.
Yeah, we don't want that because other companies are getting it right. Other companies are becoming AI first companies, and you want your company to be able to do that as well. You don't want an AI failure in this day and age where the competition is so high these days. And you need to do everything you can to be up there with the competition, to give better customer service, to have smoother lines in shipping, whatever it may be. And AI can solve problems. So it can do that very well, especially agentic AI as it's coming in. But as a company, you need to give it the right data or it's never going to work. And now we have a little news current event with a bad AI example. So in the UK, there's a company called Virgin's Money, and it had an AI powered chatbot that reprimanded a customer who used the word virgin. Now, I'm not making this up, it's true. This underlines the pitfalls of rolling out external artificial intelligence. And much as I can say, probably wasn't the first time that a word exception made for an awkward conversation.
I heard about this, and my thought is it goes back to the adage, you know, garbage in, garbage out. So this is a pretty clear example that said company didn't measure twice and cut once, and it was what the chatbot was trained on. So they didn't make the word relative or non-relative. They missed it, right? So that's where that preparation, that cleansing, and that data house is in order, right? Even just one word can throw a wrench in the works, right?
That is, and it was a bad experience, I guess. All right. Um, as our final question and wrap up, what is one action that leaders can take immediately after they're done listening to this episode and they're thinking to themselves, hey, my company's great. We're doing well. We've got some profit. We got a lot of customers, but we are not matching in the market to our competitors. And we need to become AI first. What can a company and the leadership and even the rank and file, because they do need to be involved, what can they do right now after listening to this episode?
So great question, Leonard. I think one immediate action is to schedule an hour, schedule a 60-minute AI readiness truth session this week with your company, right? With your staff, and leave with 3 decisions, right? So schedule a 1-hour meeting, AI readiness truth session this week. Leave with 3 decisions. Number 1, pick 2 to 3 AI outcomes that matter most, whether it's forecast accuracy, churn reduction, closing speed, cost to serve. Number 2, name a single business owner. And this will kind of act as an answer for some of the previous questions as well. Name a single business owner for each outcome's truth. That's definition and accountability from each department. And then the third would be to document a 1-page truth pack. And for each KPI definition, each system of record, basic rules, or access guardrails. So, if you can't define and own the truth in 1 page, you're not ready to scale AI. So I would say start there.
Yeah. Understood completely because, again, as we talked earlier, a lot of companies have different truths throughout the company. They don't have one single source of truth, and they really don't have a defined ownership of their AI project. And it probably extends to other parts of the company. But you need both your management and your rank and file to say, okay, we are all ready for this change and these department heads will be in charge. And one other thing, there's a lot of people who, in companies, they're curious about AI. They want to use it. And as companies adopt AI or are just about to, they need to encourage people, their employees, to learn and understand about AI, to use it on their own. And then those people will also be cheerleaders or champions for AI in your company. So if you're a company owner, and you're listening, first of all, thank you very much for listening, of course. But second of all, encourage your curious employees, the ones who are looking at ChatGPT or Base 44 or some of those programs, and ask them what matters with AI. And then get them to be part owners or owners of this change, as well as company heads and stakeholders who see the economic need and the other needs for changing into AI and combine those for teams to get the process rolling.
Perfectly said. And I'll just kind of caveat that to, AI readiness is a mindset. It's a culture shift, right? A lot of folks have a misconception that they're going to be replaced by AI. To your point, right? They're not, right? The AI is simply going to complement what they're doing and make them more efficient at what they're doing. It's not there to replace them.
Yes, and I agree 100% with that. And I know we see news headlines right now that such and such company has fired so many workers and they're going to be replaced by AI. And I'm calling them on that if they want to come on the show. It's really that they hired a lot of people during the pandemic. And I know that's 5, 6 years ago now, but they kept on keeping these people throughout the past couple of years when many of them weren't needed. And yes, AI makes people more efficient, so it right sizes companies. But the firings that we've seen, I believe, in my opinion, and I'm 100% capitalist here, but they've been firing them for, just to make more profit. When you can have people who are doing their jobs and you overhired, don't underhire at the moment. Keep the people that you have.
And let's look at it really realistically, right? Those layoffs, those fires, those are a very small percentage of the. You have to see the bigger picture, right? And many of those companies that are letting people go to restructure and adopt AI, they're bringing them back on. They're bringing them back in, right? Once they have their structure, their foundation complete, they're bringing more people back in to work with the AI. So you have to be realistic about all that.
And to your point there's a lot of companies, maybe not these bigger companies, but there's a lot of medium-sized companies who are looking for experienced AI people and people with that skill set and mindset. So it is out there, and that is good news for everybody. And it's also good news that a lot of companies, even if they fail, they are trying AI, they are accepting the need for it, and with processes that we laid out today, they can become a lot more successful in that changeover, the integration and migration to AI.
100%. And just remember, get your data in order first.
All right, Rick, thank you so much for coming on the show today. I hear you're doing a fantastic job of getting companies organized and AI ready. Thank you again for joining us. It was an absolute pleasure.
Thank you so much, Leonard. Pleasure to be here.
Thank you so much for tuning in today. Don't forget to follow us on social media at Track2AI Podcast. That's using the number 2, of course. And sign up for our email list. Go to www.track2aipodcast.com. And until next time, stay in the know and get on track. This podcast is for general informational purposes only. The views and opinions expressed by the guest are their own and do not necessarily reflect those of Chetu Inc., its management, or employees. Listeners should not solely rely upon the information provided and should consult appropriate professionals for advice tailored to their individual specific needs. Neither the host, guest, nor Chetu Inc. make any warranties, expressed or implied, regarding the information provided.